Hey there YouTube, Amanda G Go-Go. I'm sitting here in my craft slash game slash whatever hobby room. I've been watching a bunch of these videos online of people just giving tours of their creative space, and I love watching those. I think they're really cool. So since I finally have mine put together after being in this house for almost a year, I thought I would give a quick tour of what my space looks like and just share it with the world for the hay of it. Um, Ignore my horribly styled wig right now. I'm in the process of trying to style it for a cosplay I'm working on. So, yeah, that's why it's on my head and looks terrible right now. So, don't mind that. Anyway, I will flip the camera and I'm going to start with a tour of all the stuff in my craft space. Alright, so this is a quick overview of my space whenever you come in and open the door. I'm just going to come stand in the middle here and spin about so you can kind of see an overview of all the stuff I've got going on in here. Trying to go slow so the camera's not all shaky and horrible to look at. And now it's going to have to readjust to the light. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with just each wall of my craft space and go from there. This is probably the least interesting area just because it's just pretty much a few posters, calendar. I've got a bulletin board of some pictures I like. If we come down here, I've got my record player, and I have this thing here. It's just a catch-all. It holds my junk. I've got my copy of Paper Girls 3 here, which I haven't actually read yet. I've finished volume 1 and 2, but I need to finish 3. I've got my table here, which I've actually had this desk since I was like a baby. It's been, I think it was my mom's or something originally. It's very old. So I've got some little knickknacks here. I've got my camera out because I'm hoping for some nice weather soon so I can go get some good shots of my Siri cosplay. I've almost completed it, so I'd like to get some shots of that soon. I've got my Pokemon bank. That's also a piggy bank I made. I have this thing. I love piggy banks. I've got my Murica wolf knife right here. That was actually a gift from my dad. It's actually pretty cool. It's a pretty sweet knife. I've got some art here, some drawings my boyfriend did. The Edward Scissorhands is, I can't remember the name of the artist, but I got that at MTAC way back in 2012 when I went there. And I've got some more art up here. I've got on this corner, all I have hanging, I've got my mobile of pins. I'm looking to see if I can spot my old MTAC one. I don't remember. I just have a mobile of pins here. I didn't know what to do with it, so I put my pins there. I've also got my little dress form here in the corner. Right now she's just rocking an old t-shirt I'm about to convert into a tank top because I have too many t-shirts and I don't really wear t-shirts very often, so I'm going to convert that into something I will probably wear more often. I've got my Siri wig just plopped up there right now. I only have one head form. Over here on this wall, we've got my bulletin board that's just full of, random things and whatnot. And I've got my fold-out futon slash couch that I've had since I was like 11, but it moved with me to my house, and it's perfect for when I've got clients in here that I'm like working on something for them, or I'm just, friends hanging out. I've got my yellow submarine pillow made from a t-shirt, and I've got my bunny who's like kind of fallen over here. My family likes to call this my Franken bunny. She's basically how I learned to sew. As you can tell, she's very stitched up. That was my childhood, like, stuffed animal I slept with. If we come down here below the futon, it's not a beautiful sight, but I've got some organization there. I've got, oh, what do those say? Let's see, I've got serger thread. I have plastic bags because I make, like, wallets and things out of fused bags. I've got patches and lace. That pink thing has all of my ribbons in it for whenever I'm doing anything that needs ribbon. That's just kind of miscellaneous junk. I've got elastic, zippers, beads, fasteners, jewelry stuff. And that's also miscellaneous craft supplies right there. It's just kind of like my paints and whatnot. And if we come over to this corner, we've got my kind of bookshelf area, and then I have this shelf that I actually made and installed some hooks on so that way I can hang up things that are my works in progress instead of them laying all about on the floor. So up here I've got my weird little Tumblr aesthetic going on. I got this guy at a wax museum in Gatlinburg when I was younger, and you probably can't see it on the video because this is terrible quality, but it's very detailed. It has like veins and like chipped nails and whatnot. It's very creepy cool. I have hanging, I've got my Ranma 1/2 cosplay, and I've got my Ciri cosplay from The Witcher 3 hanging here. I'm actually still working on her. Ranma is finished, and if we come down to the floor here, I've got all of my junk ready for con going. I've got my Ciri stuff, my Ranma stuff. I've got my con bag that I'm in the process of packing up. I've got my makeup case. If we come to my bookshelf, I have Ranma's wig just hanging up here for now. I've got this weird little camera knick-knack thing. I'm a person that really likes knickknacks. I don't like clutter necessarily, but I like a few little odds and ends here and there, so I've got that. If we come down, I've mostly just got photography and sewing and fashion books in here, and I also have, you know, some books from like childhood, like The Giving Tree, Tim Gunn's Fashion Bible, which is my favorite. I got this for Christmas. It's just a little journal. It's The Legend of Zelda. I thought it was really pretty. Down here, if you can see back there, I've got my Generation T books. That's when I first started to learn how to sew. I started out kind of with messing with t-shirts, and I made everything out of t-shirts for a while, and I can thank those books for that. I've got my iPhone photography book. This is an old camera I picked up at a yard sale. I really just like old cameras, like looking at them, so I'm using it as my bookend. I've got this beautiful book here. I think it's hilarious. Then down below, I've got more books from kind of childhood that I have reread a million times. I used to love them. I've got my nerd trophy here. This is actually a Spore figurine from before the game Spore was released, and it has got Will Wright's autograph, the creator of The Sims and Spore. So, yeah, this is my nerd trophy here. I love this guy. So he just hangs out here. And then we come down, and I've got my naughty bear that my cousin gave me. I've got my little portal turret. He used to talk, but his batteries are dead, so he talks no more. Now with this corner, we'll come here. This is kind of my main corner right now. I'm using a kitchen chair as my chair because I have yet to buy a nice chair for my sewing table, but it works. I've got this foldable table. I like it actually because I can adjust the height of it, and I can fold it up and transport it when I need to, like, take my sewing machines and whatnot elsewhere, or if I'm going to set up in a market and sell some of my products and whatnot, I can just use that little fold-up table. So right now I've got Ciri's not leather corset, and I'm in the process of doing some outer stitching on it to give it a little bit more of a flare, make it a little more flashy. I've got my Singer machine here, and I actually have a digital Singer as well. It's kind of my backup, just because this one is my tried and true. It always does what I need it to. So I'm using it now, and then I have my digital as a backup. I've got my design sketchbook and just the tools I use quite often. And this is my serger. It's a Brother machine, and I love this serger. As you can tell, I am lazy and I am a cheater and can't be bothered to remember the order that these things thread in, so I have written them on here. And same with this, I've written a cheat sheet on what settings I use here for whenever I'm doing shirring or whenever I'm doing just different things. I just have it stuck on there so I don't have to be bothered to remember it. I've got my Legend of Zelda stickers all about. This is my favorite part. This is my view outside my window, so whenever I'm working, I can just kind of stare off and gaze into the mountains and whatnot and get my inspiration for working. So I love that area. I've got over in this corner, I've got my little elephants hanging up that my mother bought me from World Market. As you can see, I've got my very rigged up selfie stick hair banded to my tablet because I don't have a tripod right now, and my tablet's my camera I'm using for the moment. But I've got these. These were hand etched. I can't remember the artist name on Etsy that made them, but I actually just took a broken mirror shard and glued them on there to make a little mirror. And I've got some art, and I have all of my jewelry hanging up here, just on this little thing in here. And now I've got down here, I've got my little mini dress form, which this is mostly display, but I actually like using it sometimes for mock-ups for when I'm just kind of in the planning out stage. So instead of using my big dress form to drape, I can use this little one to drape and kind of get an idea of how I want the fabric to hang and all that before I go and actually buy, large amounts of the fabric. I can kind of do a quick mock-up on there. It takes me, a few minutes, and that just kind of gives me an idea. It's like a little Barbie version of the outfit. I've got more little knicky-knacks here. And I've got, those are all my journals that in the past I've used for like sketch design books and whatnot. I have this little caddy here that pulls out, and it's just kind of got my essentials, my black serger thread because I switch between black and white a lot. I've got some, odds and ends X-Acto, tracers, more scissors, and rotary cutters. Here on the floor I just have an old Genesis I'm trying to fix right now and get it back functioning. So I've got to do some work on the hardware inside, and I've got to get a new power supply, and I've got to get some cords to actually make it go to the TV. But yeah, I'm working on that, trying to get that fixed. That's kind of a hobby I've picked up recently. It's just refurbishing old machines. I love doing that. Then, if we come over here, I'll close the door. If we come over here, I actually have my mirror hung up behind the door, so it's kind of out of the way. And so when I'm trying on stuff or working, I can kind of just have the mirror to try on. This is my little gaming corner. As you can see, this other side is kind of off balance. That's because I'm waiting until I can find a Nintendo controller that no longer works, that I'm going to dismantle just like I've done with the Sega one. And sorry, my arm is like all up in the way. Just like I've done with the Sega one, and I'm going to hang it on the opposite side. So I've got my Nintendo and my Sega controller shadow box. I just thought that was really cool. And for all you collectors out there, don't worry. Like I said, I only like to use controllers that are beyond at least my knowledge of fixing. I don't like taking things apart that are valuable. I've got my little Legend of Zelda picture here. And right now, this is my retro gaming setup. It's in the process of being expanded. I'm going to get a second one of these, and turn it on its side so I kind of make a letter T stacking up to add the 64 and the Sega. Right now it's just stacked atop the 8-bit Nintendo and probably the PlayStation 1, I'm not sure. But I'm working on that. So right now I just have this tiny little TV right here. It's not anything special, but it works for now. I've got my weird little party light. Don't really know why I have that, but it's there. If we come back here, this is kind of the setup I'm using for this. Is just a little switcher box because this is an older TV and I'm using retro systems. Thankfully, it's got the screw-in cable here, and then it still has the red, white, and yellow cords as opposed to the newer systems that are using HDMI. So I've got this for my little switch box. So they're all plugged up and ready to go. All I have to do is power on the system and just switch it to the channel I need. I'm sure that's a basic setup a lot of people have. Right here, this is my current Pride and Joy. This is my Geralt of Rivia figurine I picked up for my birthday. I had gotten some gift cards for my brother and have used those to purchase Geralt. So he is awesome, and I'm hoping to get Ciri eventually. I'm actually amazed at how detailed he is. He comes with all the bits and bobs, but he just kind of hangs out here for now, watching over to make sure no neckers or drowners or leshens come the way of my systems and try to eat them. So when we come down here, I'm still in the process of working on this, but I'd like to get little lights to put up here so I can kind of illuminate the area. I've got my GameCube, and all of these systems are my original systems that I have had from childhood that are still running. So I've got my GameCube, and if we open this bucket here, that's going to be our GameCube collection. And much the same for the rest of the systems. I've got my SNES. As you can see, it's got the yellowed plastic here. It's very old. The controllers recently have been replaced, though, because ours, after many years of throwing the controller in anger at losing on Mortal Kombat, I have finally had to just bite the dust and replace. I really, really wanted to get the ones with the purple buttons, but there are none available in my area, so I just got what they had, which are the colored buttons, which is fine. If we come over here and pull this open, this is kind of a hot mess right now, but I've got my SNES games. I used to have a much bigger collection when I was a child, but I don't have those anymore. I'm in the process of still trying to rebuild that. I've got my Game Boy Advance SP and all my DS and Game Boy games here. I have my brick DS, which I dropped recently, but I found that if I taped it up, it still works fine. I just can't close it, so it stays open. But it still works because Nintendo systems are made so surprisingly well that you can drop it down a flight of stairs. It's not gonna destroy it too much. So it still works, so I'm hanging on to it till its last leg. And now if we come down here, this is kind of still being worked on. But I've got my 8-bit here, and right now I just have my working Sega stacked up here until I can get another one of these to put the Sega on its own shelf. So if we come and look in here, this is the biggest part of my collection by far, the 8-bit NES games. Half of these are actually my boyfriend's, and half of these are mine / my older brother's that I have just, stolen from him. But I've got my light gun, which it actually won't register with this TV. I need an old tube TV for the light gun to work, but, it's in there anyway. I've got some favorites here. I've got Milon's Secret Castle. I've got The Legend of Zelda, Adventures of Link, all these games here. I'm not going to sit and go through these. Maybe one day I'll do a video on my collection, but anyway, that's what I have going on for now.